Really. Live with the morons that can't figure out they gotta show up, clean up the house after they got thousands of dollars, you know. They can't figure out that when I go to the ER, I ain't got a bill yet, and you already went through $1,500 of my money for what medical bill? Really? You know, you're in the hospital, the bill comes after you leave. Really? You know, here's a nice little white Ford car, you know, you might want to figure out how to use it, you know. Really, you know, I'd like to have some help, you know. It's a pile of garbage. You know, it's a little white Ford. You know, it gets like $20 to go to like Harrisburg, you know. It's like 3 hours away. You know, it gets good mileage, you know. Or you can have the supercharged truck, you know, that'll tow the camper just fine. You know, like that, you know, that tows that camper. You know, it may take $40 or $50 to go somewhere, but they're a bunch of idiots. You know, you got to have solar on the house. You know, solar's all over. You know, there's solar on the shed. There's a windmill back there. There's solar on the roof. $1,730 with the solar. That's right. It's a scam. Wouldn't even keep the lights on for an hour. Really. You know, March to April, $1,730 plus probably $400 or $500 in food. You know, I had to throw stuff out and all that. You know, it cost to throw it away. You know, they're called morons, really. You know, you got a $10,000 boat or something sitting here. You know, morons can't even figure out you got to have the money to run the thing. You know, let's go to Walmart and buy $15 cans of fuel to run a two-stroke. Really, that thing there takes 10 gallons of fuel, you know, $170 to go like one trip up and down the lake. Really. You know, you could use that one. You know, here's a $5,000 or $6,000 boat sitting down here, you know, next to the truck and the camper and all that sitting here. You know, it's paid for. You know, it has a 99 Mercury on it. You know, it may take 2.5 gallons a year of gas if I could just get somebody to help me leave with it. You know, really. You know, it's a nice boat. You know, it's an Alumacraft. Oh, I'm sorry, I forgot to tell you. BRP sold the Alumacraft boat things. You know, they were the nice Evinrude people. You know, the people that went bankrupt with, you know, that company. They closed down the outboards. You know, the bass boat had one of them on it. You know, I had to go buy a 2000 Johnson or whatever. That's all I could find. You know, it's a two-stroke, 3-cylinder two-stroke. Has Japanese or Chinese writing on the block. Really. That's the only engine that I could find. Really.